Hello, dear subscribers, thank you, watchers, followers, and of course, hello, students. This video I'm creating now after a very long break I have taken. It's addressed to my composition students. So, especially those who are taking the subject with me now, I want you to please pay attention and see what I have to explain to you today. Today's video is going to focus a lot on paragraph writing. You know that we're starting just from the very beginning. So, what we're studying right now, it's a preview of what we need to remember in order to write effective paragraphs. So, today's presentation is called Introduction to Paragraph Writing. When we mean introduction, we're talking about specific elements that we need to have in mind and to take into account when we write a paragraph. But what is a paragraph then? Well, what is a paragraph according to you? Think about it. Have you ever wondered what makes a good paragraph? What elements should be included? How it has to be done? Or how you should organize your ideas before writing one? According to your knowledge and your experience, well, a paragraph may be a set of sentences put together in order to explain an idea. However, there are conventions that are followed in order to have a paragraph that expresses one complete thought that is coherent, logical, unified, and that really, really expresses what we want to say. So, a paragraph is a group of related sentences that develop one main idea, just one. They develop an idea, and all of them are sentences. So focus a lot on the definition. They are not fragments or phrases, they are sentences put together to make one whole unit. It is a subdivision or part of something larger that can be called a composition or an essay, a chapter of a book, or even a book. It has no definite length, but is often from 5 to 12 sentences long. Probably wouldn't dare to say sentences, but ideas. Why? Because a paragraph mainly has one topic sentence, at least three major supporting points, and a concluding sentence that makes five ideas in total. However, as it says, this last note that I shared with you, it has no definite length. It all depends on the style you're writing, and it all depends on the writer as well. It is complete in itself. If you have a paragraph, you need no more explanations to understand the idea that you're developing. And that's why it is so important that you organize your ideas quite well so that you don't miss anything or you don't say extra things that seem out of focus in your paragraph. Right. What does a paragraph look like on the page? Pay attention to this format because it may sound a little bit old school to repeat it, but every paragraph begins with the indentation. It is completely justified, and if you see, you will follow the format for APA style. So the margins, according to APA style, should be respected, even if you do it handwritten or if you type it. The first word is always indented. The indentation is on space or 1 inch or 5 spaces according to the things that you have in your computer. Your key, your tab key can function. However, as I told you, it all depends on the assignment you're given and it all depends on your instructor that you will probably have different margins according to what they are demanding from you. And it indicates where the paragraph begins. Every paragraph should be indented. It is a general rule. Generally, you will have 1 inch margin in both left and right, and a blank after the last word if it's possible. If you end the sentence that way, it is all right. The third point I want to explain to you is what is the difference between a paragraph and a composition? Because it seems like my students are now writing compositions instead of paragraphs. You're writing different blocks into one thing, and apparently you haven't understood that the paragraph is a single unit. So, what is the difference between a paragraph and a composition? A paragraph is composed of a group of related sentences. It is part of a composition sometimes, and it is generally shorter, less complex, and expresses a great deal less than a composition. Very recently, my students have written a paragraph where they had to explain an important day in their life. It could be a sad moment, it could be a happy moment, or it could be just something unforgettable. And they were explaining this in a very narrative tone. They were explaining what happened from the very beginning to the very end of the event. This paragraph was long. I'm talking about length. It looked like 1 page long. However, the ideas were all connected and they were part of the same single event. So that could be called a paragraph, even if it is long. Or it could be a composition. Why composition? Because they have decided to make blocks where they explain different moments within the same event. However, you should always bear in mind that differently from a paragraph, a composition is composed of related paragraphs. It can be, with other compositions, part of a chapter of a book that comprises something much bigger and more complex. Also, the paragraph is different because it is short, not so complex, and it explains just remember one single idea, while the composition covers more ground and it is more complex than it is than than a paragraph is, because that may be, as I told you, part of a chapter, or it could be something bigger and much more detailed or elaborated. To exemplify better, take a look at this drawing that appears on your screen right now. Everything begins with the word, the single unit that conveys a message. Then you move into sentence. Then you will have a paragraph. These sentences are connected to develop one single idea, and that is called a paragraph. After having a paragraph, you may have a composition, something bigger. It could be an essay or a composition. And then you come up with a chapter of a book. And finally, you will end up writing a book or a thesis work. How long is a paragraph? Well, the paragraph should not be very long to exhaust your reader or to have your reader go back and forth to the points you are explaining, but it should neither be um, too short to leave this big gap between what you wanted to say and what you really said. So if the idea is complicated, if it's long and complex, the paragraph will probably be somewhat long. Or as I was telling you, if the event is full of details, then you will probably have a long paragraph. However, if the idea is simple, the paragraph will usually be rather short. What will tell me if a paragraph is long or short? Well, it all depends on the knowledge the writer has. That is why I will always advise you to read, research, do some pre-writing so that you can know about the topic and then you can start elaborating on that. You don't write a draft at once, because if not, you will have probably too much to say or too little to say. So you better think about it, incubate your ideas, narrow the topic down, select the details that you have, arrange them in an order that is logical, and then you write your draft. Now, think about this. It should be neither so short to be underdeveloped and insufficiently explained, nor so long to have too many subtopics, which would better be developed in separate paragraphs. That is a very common recommendation that I make when I revise. When I'm editing my students' paragraphs, I always use these paragraphs that are full of ideas. And one of the recommendations that I usually write is you have enough material for an essay or a composition because you have probably exceeded the amount of ideas that you should have for one paragraph. So, recommendation, neither so short to be underdeveloped or insufficiently explained or too flat or simple or too basic, nor so long that you will have too many subtopics that would lead your reader to misunderstand what you say, to be asking what else or why did you write this, or to have two confusing ideas within just one single unit that is the paragraph. So be very careful. Not too short, not too long. How do you know it? Organize. Organization before having a paragraph done is super important. If you do it, then you will know exactly what ideas to write and what ideas to eliminate from it. The closer you get to the subject in the paragraph, the more you see to discuss, and consequently, the more the subject must be narrowed if you want to discuss in one paragraph all that you can see. What do I mean by that? Well, when you go into paragraph writing, you should always have in mind that when you want to write about one single topic, you have to remember that there's one idea, the one you're developing. You're not talking, for example, about the consequences of smoking, and you will list 10 consequences in one paragraph because that's enough material for a composition or a chapter of a book. However, if you list, for example, the three worst consequences of smoking, then you will probably have something well explained. And even though you have more ideas and more things to say, you won't complicate your reader by having pieces of information that are incomplete, but three ideas that are well explained, well developed, and that you have narrowed enough. How is the paragraph organized or developed? Well, all paragraphs have one basic aim, which is to communicate a single idea clearly and effectively. And that's what I mean by not having paragraphs that are neither too long nor too short. Although the paragraphs are not organized in the same way, they all have some things in common. And you will see some of these things in the second part of this video. So a paragraph should contain one central idea only. It also has to have unity. It should be adequately developed, and it should have coherence and continuity, which is the second part of the video you're going to watch. When thinking about paragraph writing, we should always bear in mind this is the very first principle, so please listen to this piece of advice. The paragraph should contain one central idea only, just one. One idea that will be developed within the next sentences in the same paragraph. Limit your paragraph. It is like taking a snapshot with a small camera. When you take pictures, I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but there are some photographers who will photograph a very nice scenery and a landscape, but that's the purpose, the landscape. But when you're taking a picture of a person, you won't take a big landscape and you will just forget that there was someone to be photographed. I mean, when you move into paragraph writing, you have to limit your ideas so that you know exactly what you really want to see in your paragraph. You have one idea in mind, and that's the one idea that you should develop. What is this first main idea that you will find in your paragraphs? In another video, I will explain what a topic sentence is. And the topic sentence is the controlling idea you will find almost always at the beginning of your paragraphs. And this main idea is going to control the whole discussion of ideas within one single unit called the paragraph. I'll stop right now, and I'm gonna let you watch the second part of this video where I'm going to explain the characteristics that a paragraph should have. Remember what I said? If you don't remember it, here's the reminder. A paragraph should contain one central idea only, have coherence and continuity, have unity, and be adequately developed. So this is what I'm going to explain in the second part of this video. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.